I want to hop genres once again today and look at a bit of country. And what I've chosen to look at is a solo by one of the great Telecaster players, Roy Nichols. Roy Nichols was famous for being Merle Haggard's guitar player for the best part of 20 years. And he's a fabulous player, got great tone, great technique, and you can learn a lot by studying one or two of his solos. Now, the solo I've chosen to look at is taken from a live version of the Haggard classic Working Man Blues. And on the original recording of Working Man Blues, the solo is actually played by James Burton. And I was thinking about doing a lesson on that solo. I still can if you like, but I've already done quite a bit of James Burton on this channel, so I thought I'd mix things up a little bit. And the Roy Nichols solo is different but equally great, I think. So let me begin by playing it through, then I'll break it down for you. So there we are, such a great solo and such a fun one to play. Now there are quite a few Working Man Blues live recordings that you can hear, and this is probably my favourite, and it's from 1978. Originally I think recorded for the TV show Austin City Limits, and then it was subsequently released as an album. And there's actually video footage you can see of Roy Nichols playing this solo, and it's quite funny actually. He's just delivering this face-melting solo in a totally effortless, deadpan way. So you must check out that video if you've not already seen it. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Roy Nichols and want to start checking out his music, then I think the live Merle Haggard records are probably the best place to start. He's made several now classic live recordings, all of them full of great Roy Nichols playing, so check some of those out. And if you want a bit more background on Roy Nichols, I'm not particularly knowledgeable personally, but there is a great video on the Ask Zach YouTube channel where he goes quite deep into the history of Merle Haggard and Roy Nichols and explores his style a little bit as well. So that's well worth checking out, and I'll post a link to that video as well. So let's get to the solo then. And I realise it's quite a commitment to learn somebody else's solo note for note like this, particularly when it's quite a complex solo. And it's not always something I recommend. I think there are sometimes better things that you can be doing with your practice time. But in the case of this solo, if you want to learn country guitar, then I think it's well worth putting the time in and learning this solo, just because it's a masterclass in country licks and ideas and how to play over chord changes. It's all in there, so well worth learning this solo note for note. So let me take you through how it's done. So we're dealing with a blues here. Obviously it's a country flavoured blues, and it's in the slightly unusual key of A flat. And I think when people cover this tune, they tend to put it in a more guitar friendly key like A, but the original is in A flat for whatever reason, based on standard 1-4-5 blues chord changes. So the one chord is going to be A flat or A flat 7, then the 4 chord D flat, and the 5 chord E flat. And the solo kicks off like this. And it really starts off like the original James Burton solo. Roy Nichols is kind of quoting from that original solo. It's not quite note for note, but it's definitely the same kind of lick. And we're playing over the 1 chord here, and if you want to think about scales, then we're playing A flat major pentatonic. So you might like to think about your A flat major pentatonic and your A flat major chord shape up in the 13th position. You've got that kind of G chord shape, and then that gives you the root note, the starting note for your major pentatonic scale. A flat major pentatonic, which is the same shape of course as F minor pentatonic, but here you don't really want to think F minor pentatonic, you want to think A flat, because that's the chord we're playing over, and the A flat is our root note here, and we're going to be emphasizing the A flat chord tones. So for that opening lick, just sliding up to the 13th fret on the D string, it's an E flat, and then we've just got a simple, and then just a bend. The B flat, we're bending up to a C at the 15th fret on the 3rd string. And then we've got kind of an answering phrase. You've got the question, and then you've got the answer. So we're starting in the same way, but skipping over to this high F. another one of those bends. Then we've got this. So a series of quite fast picked eighth notes. Note wise it's quite simple. We've just got these three notes on F, an A flat and a B flat, and we've got 3 bars worth of this. The first bar is this, and then the second bar is very similar, and then the third bar is a little bit different. So in that third bar, just rolling the third finger between the B flat and the F. Mostly picking all of that. There's occasionally just a pull off which helps you just get those quite fast notes to flow a bit more smoothly. Then we've got this bending lick, which is a classic country bending phrase. So once again bending this B flat, and as we're doing that we're also holding down this E flat note at the 16th fret on the B string. And coming out of that to play the 13th fret on the G. Then we're heading to the 4 chord, which is D flat, and the lick you hear Roy Nichols play is this. So quite an unusual lick, this one. It took me a little bit of time to figure this one out exactly. It's not something I would have thought of playing myself, but it works really well, and it's based on these little 2-note shapes. I suppose they're minor 7th shapes. Now, I guess what he's thinking is coming out of this chord shape here, you've got the 3rd of the D flat chord here, which is an F, and then playing an E flat as well, which is the 9th. And then we're just sliding that shape down 2 frets. So we've got, and then we're giving the 3rd string a bit of a bend, and then releasing the bend and sliding back up. So and the bend is kind of a bluesy bend. He's kind of going up 1 fret, maybe 2 frets. It's not too precise. It's kind of in between the minor and the major 3rd, which gives it that bluesy sound. So quite a tricky little lick, that one. I'm using hybrid picking, so I'm picking the notes on the 3rd string, using the middle finger of my picking hand to play the notes on the top string. And I find this easiest to play with my little finger on the top string, and I'm using my 2nd finger and my 1st finger on the 3rd string, and that just helps with the bend. I think you could do that with your 3rd and 2nd fingers as well if you wanted to. Yeah, that works too, but my personal preference is for 2nd finger and little finger. Then we've got this. So we're still playing over the 4 chord here, the D flat, but in terms of scales, I think you can think about this as A flat minor pentatonic or A flat blues scale. So really just coming straight down the A flat blues scale. Just mixing up the notes a bit towards the end of that phrase. And then we're into one of my favourite licks in this solo. So a nice, quite jazzy lick, this one. We're back playing over the 1 chord here, and we've got this chromatic run of notes. So just starting on a B and going up 1 fret at a time, hitting this E flat, and then jumping down a 5th to an A flat. And just repeating that phrase, and it's all played with 8th notes, but because it's 6 8 notes, it's repeating on itself in an interesting way. You've got that rhythmic displacement kind of thing happening. So it's 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. Then we've got another really great phrase. Just really unusual angular phrase, this one. So it's the best way to think about this. I suppose it's all notes from the A flat major pentatonic scale this time, and they're mostly chord tones. So we've got the fifth and the root to the third. This is the sixth, and then the ninth and the fifth, and then the root and the third. It's quite nice to think in terms of intervals and note functions here, and that way you can really understand why that lick works and why it describes the sound of the chord that you're playing over. Then we're heading to the 5 chord, which is an E flat chord, and the lick that you hear Nichols playing is this. So here, thinking about your E flat chord, and this lick really is a E flat minor pentatonic based phrase. So you've got your E flat minor pentatonic scale up at the 11th position, and we're just coming down the scale and adding in the flat fifth there as well. So I suppose it's the E flat blues scale. And that's a really good option, whether you're playing blues or country, over the 5 chord, to play the minor pentatonic from the root of the 5 chord. So playing over E flat chord, E flat 7, and you're playing an E flat minor pentatonic scale, it always works well and sounds good. Then we're back home to the 1 chord again, and you hear this lick. And again, it's A flat blues scale, and it's kind of a sequence based phrase. Brings us back home to the root. Then we've got this phrase. So just juggling around with these 3 notes, very similar to what we had at the start of the solo actually. Just playing that stuff down at the 4th position. And then the final lick of the solo. So another classic country bending phrase. So bending 6th fret on the 3rd string, holding the bend, playing a couple of notes at the 4th fret on the top 2 strings, then releasing the bend, and then really just coming down the blues scale. Let me attempt to put all of that together for you at a slow speed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that's it, fabulous solo, and as I said, I think it's well worth investing the time in this to learn it note for note. But of course, if you don't want to do that, you can just go through and grab 1 or 2 of your favourite licks. Let's talk about gear then, and again, if you want to know the details of exactly what Roy Nichols used and the precise models of Telecaster, etc., then again, I'll point you in the direction of this Ask Zach video, which is really good, and he goes into all of that kind of stuff. And yes, Roy Nichols, primarily a Telecaster player. It seems that he used mostly a Fender Twin live and in the studio as well, I imagine. And as far as the sound I'm getting today, it was kind of really easy to get this sound. Very often when I'm making these videos, I find myself faffing around for ages with different guitars and amps and pedals, just striving to get close to what I'm hearing on the recording. But in the case of this one, it's very easy. I've just got my Telecaster, which is a 52 reissue, going straight into my deluxe reverb amp. It's on about 7. And that sounds very, very close to the Roy Nichols sound on this recording. So no magic to it, just a Telecaster into a deluxe. All of the overdrive is naturally coming from the amp. So as soon as you get above 5 or 6 on a deluxe. It just starts to drive really naturally. So yeah, that's it. Telecaster, everything on full, bridge pickup into the deluxe. I'm going into the bright channel, input number 1, volume's on about 7, treble 6, bass 5, bit of reverb from the amp, that's on 3. I do tend to add a little bit of reverb in post, so when I'm mixing the audio to this video, probably just put a little bit of plate reverb on it just to give it a bit of a stereo kind of sound, much as you would do if you're mixing a track in the studio. That's about it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy learning this solo. I've tabbed everything out, and I've also put together a little backing track, and you can find that up on my Patreon page as usual. You can pay what you like and get access to all my tabs. There's plenty of other country stuff there and lots of other things besides. Thanks for watching. I shall see you next time. Bye bye.